So I'm going to be showing you some important measurements that are necessary when you want your dress to be fitted, especially if whoever is making that dress is not the same person sewing it. So this particular way of measurement is specific to me and how I sew, specific to 1014 Empire. So the one that people always also make mistake with is the shoulder. So how I take my shoulder measurement is I take it from this point of the shoulder blade where you're seeing this bone right here. I take it from this point to this other point. So that is how I get my shoulder measurement. So let's assume that this thing right here is the bone we're talking about. So from this end of the bone to this other end of the bone, that's how I get my shoulder, especially for females. That's how I get my shoulder. You don't want your shoulder to be on this side as if is what do you call it, as if is like falling, except that's the style. But the measurement I want is your normal shoulder blade where the bone meets, and whatever style that needs to tweak, like this one now, the shoulder I used was wider, that's why it can fall off my shoulder like this. Then the next thing is the sleeve. So from this point where you get the shoulder, from the shoulder bone to the shoulder bone, you hold on to that point. I don't know, let me put this like this. You hold on to that point, and it's from that point you take your sleeve length measurement. So I always recommend you take a short sleeve length, you measure to your elbow, and you measure to your wrist, depending on how long. But those 3 points are quite important: short sleeve, your wrist, your elbow, and then your wrist. So basically it's from here to something like this, your elbow, and then your wrist. So that is for the arm. Of course, you have to go ahead and take your wrist measurement, round your elbow, round your elbow, round your arm. I like taking 2 for this part, which is directly under your armpits. In fact, just take it directly under your armpits. That is your round arm. It's just that sometimes some people's here, their biceps is bigger than under their armpits. So that is one, the shoulder and the sleeve length. Another mistake people make is the bust point. The bust point basically is where your nipple is. So how I take my bust point, from my shoulder tip here, let me stand straight, from my shoulder tip to my bust point. So it's going to be something like this. Can you see? So it's from my shoulder tip to the bust point. So from that bust point, that's where you get your nipple to nipple measurement. Your nipple to nipple measurement is basically the distance between your 2 nipples. Some call it bust span, some call it nip to nip. Whichever one basically is the distance between both nipples. Why we need this measurement, especially for princess seams and corsets and all those type of things. So you take it from your nipple to the other nipple, and that's your bust span. What other measurement do people not get right? So in order for fitting, your waist measurement has to be on your true waist. Your waist is the smallest part of your body. So first of all, you take your bodice or your half length. And how I take my half length is from your shoulder tip across like this to your navel. But from your navel, you remove 2 inches upwards, and that's your true waist. If you can't find your navel and take out 2 inches, just measure, get to the smallest part of your waist. And the simplest way to do it is just use something and tie round. Let me just show you what I mean. Use something and tie round your waist and let the person know, oh, this is the smallest part of my waist. It's not supposed to be this complicated, but yeah, you tell them this is the smallest part of my waist. So when they're measuring your half length, it's going to go like this, and then you have to stand straight, so it's not, yeah. So this is it. So this is your half length, and this is also your waist measurement. So it's on your half length, you measure your true waist. I hope that's okay. And then from there, you also measure from your waist down to your hip. Basically, your waist down to where your hip is protruding, or where your hip comes out from that true waist. Don't forget, you're not untying this, and I just have to, because of course when you get your bodies, that becomes your true waist. And then if you want to take your measurement round it. It's possible. So basically, in taking measurements, we have the vertical measurement and we have the diagonal measurement. This one I did from your shoulder to your nipple is called a vertical. It's a vertical measurement. Same thing with from your shoulder to your bodies or your half length. It's all vertical. So after you've gotten the major vertical measurements, which is very, very important, because if your waist, for example, is 15 and somebody gives me a measurement of 17 or 18, the dress is not going to be fit. In fact, it gives it a different style entirely. So meaning your half length that is supposed to start from here will not start from here, and that doesn't look nice. So it's very, very important for fitting. Your half length measurement is from your shoulder tip to your navel minus 2 inches, or just measure from your shoulder to the smallest part of your waist. That is your half length. So that is it for the vertical measurement. You do your shoulder to bust, shoulder to waist, your true waist. Then you come down. From that your true waist, you measure to your hip, where your hip comes out, where your hip protrudes. That is it. And then you get from your waist, still on that place, to your knee. From your waist to your knee, and then still from your waist down to the floor. I hope that's clear. From that your shoulder, I have already mentioned it. So that's from your shoulder blade to your short sleeve, your elbow, and your long sleeve. Those are vertical measurements for the arm. One more thing for the vertical measurement, there is something called the yoke. And the yoke is important whenever you're making things like off shoulder or corsets, that kind of thing. So how to get your yoke, everybody's yoke is different, but most times it depends on your size. You take from your shoulder to here, just above your bust. From your shoulder to above your bust. That's it. From the shoulder to above your bust. And take down that measurement from shoulder to above the bust, just here, like right where your armpit starts. That is your yoke, right above your bust. So that is it for the vertical. So for the diagonal, you're going to take your above your bust measurement, round it. You're going to take it like this. Always make sure it can move. Not so freely, but let it be able to move. So that is above your bust. For your bust, you measure round your bust point. Remember the bust point. You're measuring round it, round the bust point. Then also the under bust. This is for fitted dresses, just under the bust. You can also take a vertical measurement of your under bust, but most times it's usually 3 inches below your nipple. But if you're a busty person, it might not be so. So if you want it to be fitted, then you should also take from your shoulder to under your bust, just where your bust ends, under where your bra is. That's where you take. Then for the waist, the same thing. You take around your waist on that place where you tied that rope or whatever it is to get your true waist. You measure around it. You measure around your waist, your hips. You measure around your hips. Then if you're making trouser, you measure your laps, and you need to measure your flap. Another circumference measurement that is very much important if you're making an off-shoulder dress is round your off-shoulder. So yeah, it gives me an idea of how wide your shoulder is generally. So round your off-shoulder, let it be able to move, let it not be too tight, so you can, well, it depends on how off you want it to be. So off shoulder. And just so I say this, each time I said diagonal throughout this video, I meant horizontal. So this is vertical and this is horizontal. So yes, for that's basically it for to get a fitted dress to your size. So if you're going to be needing my services and I'm not in the same town with you, this is the measurement you should give to me, or at least you should watch this video so you could give your tailor or whoever it is that's going to take your measurements, so they take your measurements according to my own specifications, because it's the way you measure is the way you're going to cut, and that's the way you're going to sew, allowances and all. All right, so thank you so much for watching. Do not forget to subscribe to my regular YouTube channel. All right, bye.